Welcome back. I'm joined now by the Republican candidate for U.S. Senate, Matt Corey. Welcome.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you for having me.
As you've been working the campaign trail, you had a debate this past week with Senator Murphy. What's the key to your message as you try to distinguish yourself from the incumbent?
Look, if you want pro-growth policies, peace overseas, a secure border, back our law enforcement, I think I'm your candidate.
And one of the big things that you've talked about a lot, and you did it the last time you were on this show, was saying, were you better off 4 years ago, 6 years ago than you are right now? And I asked Senator Murphy about this earlier in the program. Some of the numbers say that things are starting to improve. Inflation is back down. Some of the job growth is back up. The stock market is reaching all-time highs. But he acknowledged a lot of people you talk to don't feel that way. Is that something that you've been trying to use as a point in your campaign, that what you feel when you check out a Big Y or Stop and Shop may not be making you feel confident in the economy?
Exactly right. So the inflationary prices of our stock market is not the true what it should be. You know, inflation was down about 1.2%, 1.3% under President Trump. What it was excessive spending. And so what we're seeing right now is you see a lot of businesses closing down. I don't have to tell you, look at the hospitality markets. You have 2,700 Walgreens closing around the state, around the country. Businesses are suffering. People going to a gas station, they'll still feel a little bit of relief, but going to a grocery store or a gas station, those numbers are not coming down. And what they want to do is they want to regulate prices. Most of these companies are working on slim margins, including the hospitality business. So, you know, it's different policies. So when you pass laws in Washington, D.C., and if you don't know the effects of those laws and those mandates and regulations because you've never worked in the private sector, it makes a huge impact. So a person like myself who's owned a business, who's also worked with union jobs and non-union jobs as a citizen, you understand the impact of those laws. And so I believe we need someone in Washington that knows that.
You've been outspoken in your support of the Republican candidate, former President Trump, and one of the things he's talked about is things like tariffs on overseas items. And some economists have said a lot of things we're used to buying in the short term are going to get a lot more expensive if that happens. You talk about being a business person and understanding that. Is that something that you agree with him on, or do you have a different plan? What can you actually do in practice to fix that economy?
Right. So right now we have a $1 trillion trade deficit. So when he put those tariffs on China, this administration currently kept all those tariffs in place. We needed a negotiating tool. Nobody wants tariffs. We're looking for free trade. So when you threaten tariffs, it brings people to the negotiating table. Look, it's great. He's going to look back at that North American Free Trade Agreement and renegotiate that. We need somebody in corporate office, in the presidential office, that can negotiate trades, bring American jobs back. He's already proven it in the last 4 years. All you have to do is compare both administrations. Where were you better off? Somebody that brought jobs back, repatriated $2 to $3 trillion. He wants to lower the corporate tax rate. I know my opponent says it's going to millionaires and billionaires. That is not true. That goes into your working person's pocket. All you have to do is look at Hartford. 3/4 of the buildings are in foreclosure. 2,900 jobs at Aetna being lost. That's 90 executive jobs in downtown Hartford, plus who knows how many people that are working remotely. If he lived in the state of Connecticut more often and took walks through the city, you see how many companies are leaving. And so with policies like President Trump that wants to bring back jobs, bring back manufacturing jobs, that's who we need in the Oval Office.
You've made that an issue, and you did at the debate how much time Senator Murphy spends in the state. Do you think that's something voters should be concerned about?
I believe they should be concerned about. He would know how many businesses have closed, how many neighborhood moms and pop stores have closed, how many restaurants have closed. If he actually, you can't do that taking a walk across Connecticut once a year. If you actually lived here and visited our cities more often, visit our suburban neighborhoods more often, you would understand what we're going through here. But when you live in an elite class down in Washington and you spend most of your time down there, you can't really relate to the people that live here in Connecticut.
I want to talk about border security. The Connecticut GOP on X or Twitter put out about 10 days ago saying that Senator Murphy had failed his most basic job, which was protecting Connecticut from people outside of our borders. I asked him about that and about that comment from the GOP, and he said, listen, I negotiated a bipartisan border bill. He said I had at least 20 Republican votes. I was going to get it done, and President Trump killed it. Do you give him credit for having negotiated that bill, or do you think he should have done something else?
Look, I give him credit for trying to work in a bipartisan manner. What I don't give him credit for is when that bill failed, First thing he did is attack Republican opponents, attack the former president. Look, you had 6 prominent Democrats vote against that. One was Cory Booker, one was Senator Bernie Sanders. Now, I'm pretty sure those 2 senators, President Trump hasn't any influence over. That would allow over 5,000 people to cross that border daily. Not to mention fentanyl, unaccompanied minors that are being sold into the sex trade. That was not a great bill. Senator Murphy should have pushed the majority Senate leader, Chuck Schumer, to say, you have a bill that came out of the House. It was H.R. 2, which was remain in Mexico or remain in the nearest country that you flee from to wait for asylum, build the border wall, and stop, catch, and release. It was that simple. But this is what happens when you get politicians down in Washington. They play political games with people's lives. We need somebody down there that cares about Connecticut, cares about the country, and wants to do the right thing.
Do you worry, and I know you've had this race against Senator Murphy before, do you worry about the name recognition piece? You were late into the race after the convention. There was a recent CT Mirror poll that found 62% of people they talked to had never even heard of you.
Right.
How do you overcome Senator Murphy's war chest and him just having been around for so long?
Well, I want to hold the media to blame a little bit for that, because when we had our debate, it was 9 days into early voting. So where was the complacency of the media holding our elected officials accountable? It should have been 2 weeks before voting even started to say, hey, we have a 2-term United States senator that can't even defend his policies 2 weeks before early voting starts. So look, I agree, name recognition, $9 million I'm running up against, but where's the responsibility on Connecticut media to ask him the tough questions? So it takes a guy like me to step up and ask the questions that the media is supposed to ask. Like, why do we have wars overseas? Why do we have an open border? And why do we have an economy that's failing everyone here in Connecticut?
I do want to say that that debate was on a different channel, and this channel did pitch a debate that was before early voting began. So
I appreciate
I'll
that.
take all the blame, but another outlet handled that debate. I have a minute left, and I want to give you a chance to make a final argument to voters. If people are seeing this today and they're saying, I'm thinking about voting for Matt Corey, what's your argument?
Look, I come from the working class and the business class. I live in Connecticut. I have a vested interest in Connecticut. I want to see better for everyone. I was at a middle school in Danbury. These kids have dreams. They have dreams to make things happen. I want them to stay here in Connecticut. I want companies to come back to Connecticut. We need pro-growth policies. We're $35 trillion in debt. We need people down in Washington that's going to reduce that debt, but make everybody's lives better and more affordable. We also need somebody that served in the military, that wants to bring peace around the world. Bring people to the table, make sure there's peace in the Middle East and peace in Ukraine and Russia. We also need a secure border, and we need to back our law enforcement.
All right, Matt Corey, we're all out of time. We appreciate you being here. A couple days left in this sprint to Election Day. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
There are 2 other candidates for U.S. Senate on the ballot this year. Robert Hyde is running on the Cheaper Gas and Groceries Party. For information on his platform, you can head to his website. It's hydeforsenate.com. And running on the Green Party ticket, Dr. Justin Paglino. To learn more about him, head to his website. That's justinforall.org. And you see it there on your screen. It's the number 4, not F-O-U-R.